What reason Anthony Quinn still won't watch this episode that he filmed in 1964? Antonio Rodolfo Quinn, Oaxaca, was born on April 21, 1915, in Chihuahua, Mexico. He was born during the Mexican Revolution to a Mexican mother and an Irish-Mexican father who rode with Pancho Villa. Quinn's early life was hard, but he was strong. In the end, his family moved to Los Angeles, but they had a hard time making ends meet there. Quinn grew up in the working-class neighborhoods of East Los Angeles. Before becoming an actress, she did boxing, speaking, and hard labor. He later said that the way he was raised gave him the toughness and depth to play characters who are shaped by struggle, love, and life. In the 1930s, Quinn had a hard time getting into Hollywood. As a Mexican-American actor working in a system with a lot of racism, he was often cast as Native Americans, Arabs, Italians, and other people from disadvantaged groups. But Quinn did something amazing with those parts. He showed them a natural strength, a strong manliness, and a weakness that went against expectations. His big break came not only from his acting skills, but also from the fact that he insisted on treating every part with respect, no matter how big or small it was. Two performances, Eufemio Zapata in Viva Zapata, 1952, as the fiery brother of Marlon Brando's Emiliano Zapata, and Lust for Life, 1956, won him an Academy Award. These roles made him famous all over the world. Opposite Kirk Douglas as Vincent van Gogh, in which he stole the show as the moody artist Paul Gauguin. These two wins made him a big actor for sure, and they made him one of the first actors of Mexican descent to get such high praise in Hollywood. But it was the movie Zorba the Greek, which came out in 1964, that made him famous and defined his career. The happy, life-embracing Cretan, Alexis Zorba, put on a show that was so full of life, joy, and tragic wisdom that it went viral around the world. Quinn dancing barefoot on the beach to Zorba's dance's bouzouki music is still one of the most iconic images in movie history of freedom and the human spirit. As a result, he was nominated for another Oscar and became known as a main man who could connect with people from all over the world. Quinn was in more than 150 movies over the course of 60 years. Some of the most famous ones are Lawrence of Arabia, 1962, La Strada, 1954, The Guns of Navarone, 1961, The Message, 1976, and The Shoes of the Fisherman, 1968. He worked with some of the most famous movie makers of the time, Federico Fellini, David Lean, Elia Kazan, and George Cukor, giving each part a real feel and intensity. Whether he was playing the Pope, a shaker, a boxer, or a bad guy, always gave his characters real emotions, inner turmoil, and a magnetic presence. Anthony Quinn was also a great artist and writer when he wasn't playing. He learned how to be a builder from the famous Frank Lloyd Wright. He loved art and sculpture all his life and wrote many books, including The Original Sin, which was his best-selling autobiography. He wasn't limited to one way of being artistic. He thought of art as something that affected the whole person, and he put the same emotional depth into his paintings and writings as he did into his movie parts. Anthony Quinn got married to actress Catherine DeMille for the first time, a union that began in 1937 and went on for almost 30 years. Catherine was adopted by the famous director Cecil B. DeMille, who was a huge deal in the early days of Hollywood and had a big impact on the business. Quinn became part of the inner group of Hollywood royalty when he married into the DeMille family. He was also watched over by a strong patriarch. He is known for having strong faith beliefs and high moral standards. Even though the DeMille family was very important, Quinn and Catherine's marriage was full of love and sadness. Anthony and Catherine had 5 children together. Christopher Quinn, their first child, was born in 1938. Christopher's life was cut short when he drowned in the lily pond when he was only 2 years old, owned by their famous friend and next-door neighbor, W.C. Fields. The event was a terrible blow to the pair. It left both parents with permanent scars and cast a long shadow over their early years as parents. Even though this terrible thing happened, they kept building their family. Christina, their daughter, was born on December 1st, 1941. Catalina, their daughter, was born on November 21st, 1942. Duncan, their boy, was born on August 4th, 1947. 1947 to 1945. Valentina, their youngest child together, was born on December 26, 1952. Behind closed doors, their family looked strong, but the marriage was showing signs of weakness, especially as Anthony Quinn's fame in Hollywood grew and his secret sins got worse. Quinn had relationships with other women while he was still married to Catherine. For example, he married the famous actress Evelyn Keyes, who was an actor herself at the time. The affair with Keyes was one of many affairs that put so much stress on the marriage that it could not be fixed. After being married for almost 28 years, Anne DeMille finally got a divorce in 1965. Quinn's growing friendship with Italian costume designer Yolanda Adalori was a big reason for the decision. Adalori, who had worked behind the scenes in the movie business, won Quinn's heart while they were working together on a movie set. They got married in 1966, just a year after he got divorced from DeMille, but they had been dating for a while before that. Quinn had 3 boys with Yolanda. Francesco was the oldest. He was born March 22, 1963. Francesco wanted to be an actor like his father did. He had parts in both movies and TV shows before he died suddenly of a heart attack in 2011. Danny Quinn, their second son, was born on April 16, 1964. He followed in his father's ways by acting in movies from around the world and making a modest living in the movie business. Lorenzo Quinn, the youngest of the 3 and born May 7, 1966, stopped acting and became famous around the world as a skilled sculptor. His work can be seen in galleries and public places all over the world. Even though things seemed solid in their family life with Yolanda, there was again a lot of cheating and trouble. There was a time in the 1970s when Quinn was married to Adalori, but seeing an event director from Los Angeles named Friedel Dunbar. Even though they kept their affair a secret, it led to the birth of 2 more children. Sean Quinn, their son, was born on February 7, 1973. Alexander Anthony Quinn, their son, was born on December 30, 1976. These kids made Quinn's already big family even more complicated, which is typical of him. He has many relationships and different sets of values that often overlap. Anthony Quinn started a new phase in his personal life again in the 1990s. He was in his late 70s at the time. He started dating Catherine Benvin, his secretary. She was a lot younger than him, but they became friends and then married. Antonia Patricia Rose Quinn was born on July 23, 1993, and Ryan Nicholas Quinn was born on July 5, 1996. They had 2 more children together. After Antonia and Ryan were born, Quinn had a total of 13 children, born to 4 different moms over more than 50 years. In August 1997, Quinn finally divorced Yolanda Adalori. This ended a marriage that had been going on for over 30 years, but had been troubled by cheating and emotional distance. Not long after that, in December 1997, he married Catherine Benvin, making their bond stronger and creating his last family unit. Even though he was getting older, became a father again, and stayed married to Benvin until his death at age 86 in 2001. Anthony Quinn was a legendary actor who was known for being passionate and larger than life on screen. He is remembered for many acts that will live on in film history. For all the famous parts he played, his performance in the 1964 movie Zorba the Greek may have been the one that best defined him. Quinn became known around the world as one of the most charismatic leading men of his age, with his role as Alexis Zorba, a free-spirited, horny jerk with a lust for life. But Quinn allegedly avoided watching a certain scene even though the movie was a hit and has a lasting legacy, or even the whole movie for very personal reasons that show how deeply he feels and how perfectionist he is as an artist. When Zorba the Greek came out, it got great reviews from critics all over the world. It won 3 Academy Awards and became one of the most popular movies of the decade. Many people thought Quinn wasn't acting at all because his performance as Zorba was so real and full of life, but was just expressing a spirit that was already inside him. In the famous ending scene, Zorba teaches the tense Englishman how to dance on the beach while his own life falls apart. This scene became a symbol of accepting life even when things look hopeless. It was honest, mysterious, and beautiful all at the same time. Still, several close friends and biographers say that Anthony Quinn found it painful to watch the movie again, especially that most important part. Quinn thought that despite the dance's symbolic beauty, he had not captured the inner turmoil and joy that Zorba was meant to show in that one defining dance. The Zorba's dance scene might look great to the crowd. The eerie music of Mikhail Theodorakis was playing in the background as Quinn improvised Sertaki. He held his arms out and moved his body without following a set pattern. Was praised for how intense it was. But for Quinn, who was proud of being emotionally honest and having a deep spiritual link to his characters, the moment was filled with unresolved grief and a feeling that he had failed as an artist. In an interview, he had said that while that scene was being filmed, he was in pain from a recent injury and couldn't move around as freely. He thought that what everyone else saw as Zorba's joyful, successful release was actually him making up for a broken foot, an improvisation born from need rather than vision. With that information in mind, the scene served as a lesson of how to compromise instead of win. What makes the part even more interesting is the emotional weight Quinn brought to it. A few years before, in 1941, his 2-year-old son Christopher drowned and died, which was very sad for him. That tragedy left Quinn with deep scars, and even though he didn't talk about it much in public, he did say that he put a lot of his own pain into the character of Zorba. The main ideas of the movie, grief, acceptance, love, and how short-lived happiness is, reflected his own personal problems. So, he said that seeing the movie would open a door I try to keep closed. People in the crowd may have seen Zorba's wise words about life and death as a celebration of strength, but for Quinn, it was also a painful encounter that left her with emotional wounds that hadn't been healed. There's also the issue of leaving a memory. Anthony Quinn was very proud of his work, but he was also very hard on himself his whole life. He often found it hard to watch his own acts again, especially when he thought he could have done better. He was known to watch movies like Viva Zapata or Lust for Life again and again with a mix of affection and criticism. But Zorba the Greek was very important to him. It's too personal and emotional to handle like any other job. It wasn't just a show for him. It was a way to let go. I remember filming in the sun-drenched villages of Crete, getting to know the people there, and becoming fully immersed in Zorba's philosophy of embracing life in all its chaos and sadness. He didn't need to relive these events on TV because they were so important to him. As time went on, Quinn would smile and say, "I lived it," when asked why he rarely, if ever, watched Zorba the Greek. "I don't want to see it again." That one sentence might say everything about his bond with the movie. Anthony Quinn saw Zorba the Greek as more than just a great movie. It was a reflection of his own inner journey, a show he didn't want to go back to, and a time in his life that, even though everyone loved, was still clouded with personal pain and spiritual reflection. Zorba the Greek is a great work for everyone. Tony Quinn saw himself in it and rarely dared to look at himself in it again. Anthony Quinn decided to spend the last few years of his amazing life in Bristol, Rhode Island, a quiet town on the coast. Bristol, which was known for its historic charm and peaceful beauty, was a quiet place to get away from the noise and chaos of Hollywood. A good setting for a man who had seen the world and lived many lives through his movie parts. Quinn had always had a deep love for art, nature, and being alone. The slow pace of life by Narragansett Bay brought her comfort. They bought a beautiful house with a view of the bay's sparkling water in 1995. It was a place for him to paint, write, and think. Congratulations on a life full of ups and downs. Quinn's health started to get worse over the years. He had been healthy and strong well into his 80s, but the stress of living a full life and the long-term effects of smoking finally caught up with him. He was told that he had lung cancer, which needed radiation treatments. Sadly, the treatments that were meant to make his life longer ended up shortening it. Anthony Quinn died in a Boston hospital on June 3, 2001, from not being able to breathe. He was 86 years old. It was the end of an age for classic Hollywood movies and for millions of fans around the world who were enthralled by his roles in movies like Zorba the Greek, Lawrence of Arabia, and Viva Zapata. It was a very sacred and historical place where Quinn's funeral took place. In College Hill, Providence, Rhode Island, there is the First Baptist Church in the United States. The church is one of the oldest Baptist groups in the United States. It was founded in 1638 and is now a National Historic Site. The fact that this church was chosen showed how much Quinn was respected and how much of a memory he left behind. Not just as an actor, but also as a complicated, larger-than-life person. People from all walks of life came together to honor a man who had played some of the most passionate and enduring roles in movie history. In a very personal and symbolic act, Quinn's wife asked the Bristol government for approval to bury her husband in their own backyard, a place that had become holy to him in his last years. To be exact, she asked that he be buried next to an old maple tree that Quinn had loved very much. The tree watched over the property in silence. He often sat there to enjoy the view of the bay, draw in his notes, or just take a deep breath of the salty New England air. Trees are more than just things that grow. They are living links to the ground, to memories, and to home. The officials agreed to the private burial because they understood how unusual the request was, and how important the man was. This is how Anthony Quinn was buried, on the land he loved, under a maple tree that provided shade, with the Narragansett Bay in the background. A place to die that didn't talk about fame or fanfare, but about peace, love, and feeling like you belong. The man's life had been anything but quiet, but his death was peaceful. He was both angry and happy, and he found his own place in the world in the end, where he could rest for all time.